welcome back to my channel. I'm so happy to have you with me today. It is June 2022 and it's time for the Karen Burniston Designer Challenge. This month Karen challenged us to a mini slimline. My friend Mary brought me a card that she received from Mother's Day, and she likes to challenge me. This is not a mini slimline, but it is a slimline. Here is the inside of that card. She challenged me to design something similar. So since I had the challenge going on and I needed a slimline, I decided to combine the two challenges. So here's my answer to that challenge. I'm pretty happy with the way it came out, and I think that it's a lot of fun. And I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. So let's get started. So after giving this challenge some thought, I decided that I needed a grid to attach all of my celebration balloons and gifts and whatnot to. And the die that I came up with that has a grid is the flower pot. So I constructed one just exactly as Karen showed it on her instruction video, which is linked below, so I'm not going to go into the construction of that. But the next step that I found necessary is I wanted it shorter, so I collapsed it down and I measured from this flap piece, which I'm going to cut off in a minute, all the way across here is the fold line. Then I measured a ½ inch down, made a line ½ inch, so it follows the design of the flower pot. But then I decided that to get what I'm looking for, I cut off the flaps right here. I just followed the crease line on that. Then I cut them off over here. And then I cut them on this line on both sides. And this is what I came up with. And that is exactly what I'm looking for. So in order to put this in a 3½ inch card, it was not going to fold down quite enough. So I did a little bit of trimming. So I cut it off on two sides, knowing I'm going to attach it to my card. But on this particular section, the smiley face piece of the support is out here. So you have to be careful not to cut that all the way off. So I trimmed that there, and I trimmed it here. Then I turned it this way, and I trimmed it inside of there, and then inside of here. So now, when it collapses down, it won't stick out so far, so it'll stay in the card because this is only a 3½ inch card. So I'm going to trim it down a little bit more. You want to make sure you leave just enough so that you have some area that's glued and the tab is being held on right there and there. Just a little tidying up is what I'm doing right here. Okay. So that's exactly what I'm looking for. I want that grid to be able to collapse and open when the card comes open. So I'm going to put all of this trash over here for now. I'm going to set this aside. And if you've watched any of my videos, you always know that I make an ugly prototype, and today is no exception. This is my ugly prototype. I wanted to see if it was going to work. And luckily it does. And I wanted it to fold down so that I could have the longer pieces back here with shorter things in the front so that it would display everything. So what I did with that is I did a little test. As it turned out, you have to put the die that makes the tabs, which looks like this. Let me hold that up so you can see that better. Anyway, this is how the die looks. Now I mark on mine, here's where my tab is and here's where my tab is, and this is the very center. And since this card is only 3½ inches tall, I needed to place it exactly in the center for everything to work correctly. Okay, now I have my grid and I'm going to set that aside for a minute. I made my card base and it is 12 inches this way with a 6-inch, with a crease at the 6-inch mark this way, because I want it to close sideways, and it's 3.5 inches high this way. I also made my inside panels, and I also made the front of my card for use. I'm going to add that on at the very end. And just a word of advice, when I made this front, I thought, oh, it would be so nice to have a bow on there, and I made the most beautiful little bow. I put it on there, but then I realized with a bow on there with the knot, it's not going to lay down flat, and this card really needs to lay down flat for full effect. So that plan was just saved for another day. I took the bow off and put the sequins on, and I still think it looks festive. I also prepared all of the inside parts, and there's lots of balloons and streamers and hats and gifts and all kinds of fun festive things. And I made all of them double-sided so that when you pick up the card, and of course people are going to look at it and want to see how it was made, so you need to have it looking good on all sides. So I double-sided everything and put it on little skinny pieces of acetate. Now this acetate needs to be rather strong, so I used some packaging from something that I got earlier, but I always save the packaging because I use it for things like this. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is show you that I did mark everything. Now I want my panel to open the opposite way that Karen showed it on the instruction video. So I'm going to put the die that cuts the tabs on exactly the opposite way that she did it. But I've marked my center so I know where to line it up, and I'm going to move these panels down here just like that. I'm going to line them up, and I'm going to use some washi tape. This tape has been used many times and it's hardly sticky at all, but it'll work for what I need here. So I'm going to put these together. I'm going to tape them together just like that. Hold that down. Good luck. I hope the tape sticks. Okay, so now what I want to do is line up my die so that I have my arrow pointing up instead of down for this card. I'm going to line up the centers, and I'm going to put the notches on the center of these two panels. Then I'm going to put the center just like that. I'm going to tape this in place with some more well-used washi tape. I'm going to take it to my die cutting machine and I'm going to cut my tabs. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back from the die cutting machine and I've cut my tabs. Now there's two things that I like to do that you may or may not want to do, but that's entirely up to you. On the back side where I have my tab, I put a little piece of clear tape right here on where that crease is. That just adds a little extra strength, and I did that on both pieces. There's nothing more disappointing than making a beautiful card and then having it come apart because your paper breaks, and this will avoid some of that. The other thing that I did on this one, because I had a double layer and I put it together with tape runner, I was able to split this here, and I'm going to cut this little piece off, just exposing that white tab that's attached to the card. So I'm going to trim that off. It's never going to show on your card, and it's going to make your card stronger by eliminating that extra piece of paper. I'm going to do that on both sides. Okay, so now I have my tabs exposed, and the next thing I'm going to do is put them on my card so that I can attach my base to the tabs. I'm going to speed up the film here and probably do some of it off camera so that I can get it really attached the way I want it. I like to use tape runner for attaching panels, but since this is going to have the tab on it, I'm going to put some liquid glue right around here so that it has extra strength. Okay, I have my center panels added securely in place, and I've erased those marks that I marked the center of the card. So next I want to place my mechanism in the center, and the way they're going to line up is with the points going towards the outside of the card, and these little indentations are going to be in the crease where we cut out those pieces. So I'm going to line it up like this. I'm going to put glue on the outside of my tab, and I'm going to glue it to this part of the mechanism. I'm just going to hold that for a second, make sure it stays in place. I do the same thing over here. The glue goes on the outside of the tab, then I'm going to lift it up and glue it right in the corner. Okay, I'm going to give that a minute for the glue to dry, and then we have a working mechanism, and I'm going to start adding all the other pieces. So there we go. Now I'm going to start adding all the other pieces, and I'm going to speed up the video here because it's a lot of trial and error, and you can see basically how I'm going to do it, and you will also see that I'm going to refer to my ugly prototype so I know how tall I can make the pieces that I'm adding. I've finished adding all of the pieces that I wanted to add, and I think it looks like a festive birthday party. There's really no way for me to explain how to do this other than you just have to use trial and error. You may have noticed in the part of the video where I sped up the speed that I took things and put them on and took them off and placed them several times and kept closing the card to make sure that everything fit inside. I went ahead and finished off my card by adding Celebrate, and then on this side I added a place for my greeting with a festive balloon. On the front, I added my front panel, so the card is complete. I appreciate you joining me today. I hope that you've been inspired to try a new technique. Until next time, bye-bye.